excited to be one of your hosts here at the Capital One stage. The coolest thing you get to do the next 3 or 4 days is you get a chance to come up and be a part of these interviews. We're going to have former college greats, NFL greats come up here, and we're going to get to visit with them, and you, hope so, we'll get a microphone out here we have in the past, and then you can ask questions if so. So I want to welcome to the stage Mr. John Gilmore. He was a tight end at Penn State and has spent time with the Saints, the Bears, the Bucks, the Steelers, and the Saints. Hello, dear. Nice to meet you again. Come sit down wherever you like. Also, Mr. Takeo Spikes, he's a linebacker at Auburn and taken the first round of the 1998 draft. Can't miss this guy. All right, and Mr. Michael Clayton, he was a wide receiver at LSU, taken in the first round in the 2004 draft. Wherever you like, gentlemen.
And then change those places every few
And this, yes, welcome to Playoff Fan Central, I've been told. Thank you to our gentlemen in the blue up there. We appreciate everything that you do for us, taking care of us. Much appreciation. I'm Rachel Barbeau. We get a chance to chat with these guys right up here. First of all, before we get into some of the accolades in your career, guys, this game, and we'll get back into it, we'll be free-flowing for the next 30 minutes, but this game, I think about it, and I think about all the things that had to happen, right, this football season. Every single little thing, down to a kick made, a kick not made, a touchdown made, a catch not made, and all the things that happened for these two teams to be right back here, which to me feels like a rematch. It's got all the bells and whistles. We'll start with you.
Well, I would say for Clemson, one of the worst feelings in the world is to make it that far and to come up short in the national championship game. So it wasn't a surprise to me that they showed themselves well this year. Obviously, they have, in my opinion, the best player in college football in Watson. And when you have a quarterback at the position who plays at the level that he plays, it is no secret to their success.
Yeah.
And to add on to Alabama with Coach Saban, you never can blink an eye at the guy and count him out regardless. You know, he lost a lot of key players last year, and it was just filled with guys. Jalen Hurts was his freshman quarterback who did a tremendous job, but I think that his process alone, I experienced it firsthand when I was in college on a professional level. He runs that organization as all their players should be consummate pros. It's no secret to me why Alabama is there as well.
Yeah. Go ahead, John.
No, I think Mike summed it up, to get to that pinnacle game. I've been to a Super Bowl, played against Peyton Manning back in 2006. We lost that game, and to get to that pinnacle moment, know that you might not have a shot at getting back, especially in a window of 4 years. It's hard to bet against Clemson. Obviously everybody's saying they're playing for second place. I actually said that myself at the Florida State Championship game up at the Orange Bowl. One of the Alabama scouts were there scouting the kids. I said, man, everybody's playing for second place. And he kind of laughed and shrugged his shoulders. But I think in this particular matchup, we're going to see a really good game, spectacular game. And, I'd like to see Clemson pull it off.
Takeo, you've played a lot of football and covered a lot of football as an analyst now. Does it, I say the word destiny, all right? I'm okay with that. I don't use the word destiny a lot, but the fact that Clemson will tell you last year that it was their own, shortcomings that lost the game to Alabama. The fact that they're here again, it does feel like destiny.
I agree with them. It's not by accident that Clemson is here.
Absolutely.
And you have to look at the big overall picture, and when you look at their body of work and what they've been through the entire season, almost being upset, going through close games, being able to pull it out, 2 games within the last 5 minutes, that builds character. And when you go back and you look at last year's season for Clemson, for me, I thought it was really their first time really understanding everything Coach Dabo Swinney told them as far as, look, you are a good football team. And then when they started to win, it ended up in the championship game, but they lost. Now this year, for them to come back and run the table again, I look forward to this game on Monday night. And, you know, I'm not a big Nick Saban fan like my man. Come on now, like Mike was
A lot of people are.
I know. I respect him because the culture that he's brought back to Alabama, but at the end of the day, I look forward to seeing a great football game on Monday night.
You know, I also find it fascinating that Nick Saban and Dabo Swinney are so different in terms of their style. One is work all night, burn the midnight oil, and want your thoughts on Saban and the process and the way that he does it. And Dabo, just visiting with the Clemson football team a couple of weeks ago, and I like to say this, and I mean all due respect with this, he's one part a little dorky, he's funny, he's magnetic, he is, he's this light that people want to come to, and he's also smart. He was a walk-on at Alabama and then a coach there, so he knows what hard work is. So I just find it fascinating. You have these two coaches that are polar opposites that have gotten their teams back to the championship game.
Yeah, well, Coach Saban is old school. He comes from the old school tradition and how to work, and he knows that he's had success in the past, and there are no changing the process that which he's perfected in the past decade or 15 years, should we say. But as times change, players change. Social media is big now, and it's very important for new coaches who come into this industry to be able to meet players where they are, which is where Swinney comes in. He relates to his players. People go to Alabama not to have a good time, because you're not going to have a good time when Coach Saban is your coach. You're going to work hard every day, and it's probably going to be the worst time of your career, your football career, but you're going to win. I wanted to go to Florida State because Bobby Bowden was there and they were winning championships. People go to Alabama to win championships. When you have a guy like Swinney, people go there because they love that coaching style, and it's very important for coaches to relate with their players. Coach Saban didn't have success in the NFL because he couldn't quite relate and wasn't willing to change his coaching tactics. So Swinney has the up on that, and I look forward to seeing his players play well.
I think that's an interesting point, guys, and love for you guys to remark on the difference between Saban and Swinney. But I've heard this said before. Andy Staples, my co-host on Sirius XM, said there are certain type of players that play at Alabama, and there are certain type of players that play at Clemson. And I don't know necessarily that all of them are interchangeable. Go ahead, John.
Well, I think it all comes back to style. I think we're all talking about the same thing. You know, you see the Clemson players are out there, they play loose, they keep it loose. When you see Alabama take the field, it's very formidable, straight, narrow, ready to execute. I saw a quote recently, I think everybody here saw, from Mike Tomlin talking about great coaches, and very few people fall in that category. I think it's hard to argue that Nick Saban wouldn't fall into that great quarterback category when it comes to college football. Obviously, he struggled at the next level in NFL. It's a style thing, and the way he rallies young people and gets them all to line up and execute is very hard to find.
And I admire both styles of coaching because it really takes not only a true professional, but I truly believe anytime you not only a coach, a head coach, but anytime you're in a leadership position, you have to understand and feel the pulse of your team, whether or not if it's the front office, whether or not if it's your corporation that you're running, in order to get a better understanding of, okay, this didn't work, even though I have my own beliefs, but I have to adapt to this new age and style to still be able to get my point across to the guys, and both guys have done it successfully. They've done it their way, and that's the reason why we're talking about them on this Monday night.
For my linebackers down there, how has the position changed in college since you played?
It's changed a lot. I cringe sometimes because the officials are quick to throw the flags at these kids for the targeting. And I don't like it because, one, I understand player safety and I'm all for it.
Yes.
But I think you give the officials too much authority, and that's one. Two, we have to understand that they are human and they're going to make mistakes.
Right.
And it is such a subjective call because the reason why everybody loved this game is because players react. And it's not something that you can go out and say, you do this and then you react this way. It's impulse reaction. And that's what fans fall in love with. And I think some of the fun is taken out of the game, especially when you see a player, a college kid, he comes in and he tries to come in at this targeted angle. But if the offensive player cringes down, and if he hits head-to-head, now you're kicking him out for a half. I don't agree with that. I think the only time you should be able to kick a kid out if he's directly targeted like Clayton. Other than that, at least give them 2 opportunities. If it happens a third time, then look at ejecting them for a half of the game.
John, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, that's a split-second decisions. I know Takeo initially said the flag, and I'm sure I knew we were on the same page, but the ejection, it really doesn't make sense. You're hurting the team, especially when you talk about this time of the year. Everybody wants to see who the best is, and it really comes down to your best players. And when you start ejecting guys for making split-second decisions, that aren't intentional, a lot of that stuff isn't intentional. It really doesn't make sense, and it hurts the game, the quality of the game, and that's not what you want to see, especially when you're getting into the playoffs.
Michael, you played for Saban, and everybody here wants to know, maybe not everybody, some people that don't like him, maybe Clemson fans, but a lot of people want that inside track on him, on who he is to play for, who he is away from the field. I recently got an opportunity that I'll forever remember. His wife, Terry, allowed me to tell their love story. His wife of 45 years, and let me tell you something, even if you don't like Nick Saban and you're a fan of somebody else, you can admire his marriage. It's a 45-year marriage, and she told me about the time, this is great, that she was trying to get his attention, and he was a quarterback, and she was in 7th grade, and she was a cheerleader, and he was walking across the football field, and she said she didn't know what to do, so she decided just to preen her feathers like a bird, and so she decided to do a cartwheel right in front of him. She said he didn't even look twice at her, and she just stood there and did her best cartwheel. Well, later on, they would get married, and they've been together 45 years, and she's the glue that holds them together behind the scenes.
Yes. Well, I had a great relationship with Coach Saban. I was the player. Not every player on that team is a Saban guy, but I was a player who was able to go into his office, kick my feet up on the couch, go into his refrigerator, get waters.
Why is that?
Well, I think for number one, I was a Baton Rouge kid, and LSU never recruited the inner city African American kids. And when Coach Saban came, he said that the best players are going to play, regardless of what your age is, and that we know that we have to recruit Louisiana hard in order to bring success to our university. And at the time, we had the top 10 players. Out of 20 top guys, 10 of them were from Baton Rouge, and Coach Saban knew that if he could get me, I was right there in Baton Rouge to come. I could convince the other guys in Louisiana to come, and that was his sales pitch. Coach Saban said, make a 40-year decision, not a 4-year decision. I wanted to go to Florida State with Bobby Bowden. Bobby Bowden came into my living room on a Saturday, and Coach Saban heard that Bobby Bowden was in my living room, and on Sunday he called my dad and asked him if he could come, and he made his sales pitch. And I thought about it. I said, I'm from Baton Rouge, I'm a hometown kid, and that will forever be my home. And I always want to be remembered, the big thing is about playing for your hometown team. And he was a person that proved that he would change the culture. Unfortunately, being from Louisiana, you have a lot of racial tension, and for a coach like that, when you're the head coach at LSU, you have a lot of power in Louisiana. And he was a guy who came in, who cared about the players in Louisiana, and really established us as a culture to recruit the Louisiana guys. We were able to do that, and it transpired into great seasons after great seasons, first-round draft picks, number 1 draft picks after number 1 draft picks, and it was great culture for LSU.
People have this perception of him that he is hard-nosed, and
Yes.
he's very serious.
And he is.
But he has another side of him that maybe you've been fortunate enough to see it, and I see it a lot when he talks about his wife. He has a whole other side of him where he smiles, he laughs, he jokes. I call it a Cheshire grin is what it is.
Coach Saban is a guy where not a lot of coaches enjoy working for Coach Saban, because the accountability that he requires out of his players, he requires out of his coaches. And if a coach steps out of line, or if a coach has a player that continues to mess up, he's going to let the coach have it in front of everybody. But he's also a player, I remember vaguely, like it was yesterday, he would bring me over to the defensive side of the ball every practice, and he would have me walk through the defense just in case I had an opportunity to play defense, because I was a safety in high school as well. And he looks at me and he says, "Hey, Mikey." He called me Mikey. He said, "Watch this." And he goes and he rips the "You got it!" and he rips a player in two, and he looks at me and he winks. And I knew then that he had both sides. Every single day in the off season, I was at Coach Saban's house in his backyard. He had a catfish pond in his backyard, and me and Marcus Spears were over there every single day, and we would fish. And we had the gate code, and we would get in and we would go fishing. And one day we missed afternoon workouts, and he met us down at his pond at 6 o'clock. We had lost track of time. And he ripped us a new one. For real. And he had us running. You would have thought that we did something just so bad, the way that he had me and Marcus Spears running in front of the whole team. But he had to do that because we were his leaders. And if we were allowed to skip, then that would cause a major effect. That's why that he handles distractions a certain way. I saw Coach Saban get rid of some of the best players in LSU's history because they couldn't get it together. And when I saw that as a freshman, seeing Damian James get kicked off the team, I knew that I had to carry myself at a high standard, and the direct result of that type of coaching style was our success that we had in 03 winning the national championship.
John, I was thinking about you being a linebacker at Penn State, and not only you won the Outstanding Senior Player Award, by the way. I do know that, but I was thinking about you as I got ready for your interview about how excited you must have been for the resurgence of Penn State this year, man. What a neat thing to watch.
No, absolutely. As a tight end for Penn State.
Yeah, tight end.
Not a linebacker.
You don't always make it a linebacker, though, John.
He is. He's my linebacker.
Let's just put it this way. My first year in Chicago, they had me running a little scout team fullback going up the middle with Brian Urlacher. I said, yo, bro, you need to dial that back a little bit. So no, I didn't want no part to that linebacker or fullback position. But, to watch these guys make a run the way that they have, being a Penn Stater, obviously I'm very proud. Penn State Nation is proud. Everything, all the adversity that a lot of those young men had to overcome. Some of those guys are being coached by two coaches, multiple position coaches, guys coming, guys leaving, no scholarships, walk-ons, and for them to do what they did with the pieces that they had is quite impressive. I think everybody started to write them off after they lost to Pittsburgh. I'd be lying to you if I said they'd be having the type of season that they had this year. But to sit back and watch these guys perform at a high level, they got better every week. And the best thing about it is they're all coming back. So big expectations for Penn State next year.
Was James Franklin made for that job?
James Franklin, he's an interesting type of coach. He falls into that loose, laid back type of coach. I had a chance to spend some time with James last offseason, and a lot of lettermen are starting to just get back and get to know him a little bit. But I like his coaching style. He's a big recruiter. It's what he's known for. I think he's getting better at delegating responsibilities to his coaches and letting his coaches coach. I think that was kind of a transitional thing he had to overcome coming into the situation that he did. But now you're seeing a lot of good things out of all aspects of the game, both sides of the ball, special teams. It's really fun to watch.
Takeo, when you think about Auburn, you got a lot of love in your heart for that Auburn family?
I don't even have a choice. A lot of love, though. A lot of love for the kids. And it's been rough. It's been rough lately. Just trying to get back to the winning standard, knowing that when you come from a prestigious university, LSU, Penn State, Auburn, not only do you want to be known as that, but you want to be able to have that result every year at the end of the season, knowing that, we're really worth our salt. And so we have to continue to get better, bring in better players. Hopefully with Jared Stidham coming in from Baylor, the quarterback, I do believe that we will be back on top next year.
It's tough in that SEC West.
Man, it's tough.
It's tough in the SEC period, but certainly in the West. Jared Stidham was a big pickup.
Big pickup. Listen, he was so big, I even reached out and I put a tweet about him.
You did?
Yeah, I did. And he responded back, and the Auburn people loved him. I wish they should, because the funny thing is, people never really appreciated Nick Marshall until he left.
Right.
And that season I remember when we went to LSU and we played you guys with Nick Marshall. we lost, but something happened the second half of that game, and after that they went on a roll to go all the way back to the national championship game. But his appreciation, people really didn't appreciate how good he was as a college quarterback until he left. So now, hopefully, we have the guy in the driver's seat to be able to be back and at least have an opportunity to play for the national. I'm looking at the SEC. I want to win the SEC West, win the SEC, so we can go to the playoffs.
You guys weren't playing, and when the playoff was around, and I remember doing Sports Talk Radio. I've done it for about 13 or so years now. I don't want to give away too much of my age, but I remember thinking that there would never be a playoff in our time. Like in the time that I was covering football, I thought there would never be a playoff, that we'd always have the BCS. Did you guys think about that being something that could be in existence, or hope for it?
I had a great experience that led me to believe that we would have a playoffs, because in 2003, the Sugar Bowl was the national championship game. We were invited to the Sugar Bowl to play against Oklahoma, but if you remember, USC shared a national championship as well in the Rose Bowl, I believe, and we were co-champions.
Yeah.
And from that, it's like, you know, everybody wants to make it to the Sugar Bowl for the national championship, and now we make it there, and at the end of the year, we have to share with USC. You know, to me, it just wasn't fair. Like, how do you, who's the best in the country? So from that experience, we have to have a playoff, so there's never another situation. The team wants to take the title to say we're the best in the country, and thanks to Reggie Bush, you know, we're able to, you know, take that championship and call it our own all by ourselves.
Yeah. Did you guys dream of it when you were playing? Did you think it would happen?
You know, I never dreamed about it. I never really put too much thought into will this happen. But I always question, why isn't there a playoffs?
Right.
There's a playoffs at every level. Why isn't there a playoff in college football?
Why can't we figure it out? That was my, you know.
Well, I think they're still trying to figure it out. I still don't think they have it figured out. And obviously, I'm talking from a Penn State perspective on the outside looking in. But, you know, how do you really find the best if you don't include the top 10? I mean, there's any given Saturday, somebody can lose. And, you know, there was a lot of good teams that obviously didn't get a chance to slide into those 4 spots. But, I mean, it's really tough to argue is the best really playing in the game tomorrow, on Monday night.
I love that passion. I mean, he's looking at me with like straight up conviction. I love it.
I mean, it's pretty simple. 4 teams that, you know, you don't have the best. The best isn't in that conversation. I mean, it is.
We don't know. It's a good argument. We don't know.
Wait a minute, that's
Right?
going to drop
It's a
the
good
mic
argument.
moment.
Right.
He just drops the mic and walks off stage at that point. Takeo?
I felt like at some point it would have, you know, I mean, it's happened, but I thought it would have happened a lot earlier, just because of people like us who really care and know about the game. I want to see it at least with 6 teams and somewhat take on the same format as like the NFL. The top 2 seeds maybe have a bye and let, you know, 3, 4, 5, and 6 play each other. And then you come back and include the number 1 and number 2 team and let those guys come in and play a playoff. That way, Penn State would not have got the wrong end of the stick. And then I think that cuts down a lot of the conversation. And then from an economic standpoint, it could be good for a lot of colleges too as well. So I think it will be a win-win for everybody if they go to a 16 playoff versus a 14.
If you have a question, we've got a mic right over here on the right. You don't often get to ask some of the greats in college football. If you've got a question, you can just raise your hand and he will pass the mic around. Absolutely, right up here front and center. He was ready too. He was here before we even got on the stage.
Yeah, what do you think about John? From Penn State about Joe Paterno when they decided to fire him?
What were my feelings? What were my thoughts with it?
Yeah, your thought about it when they decided to take away his statue and decided to fire him before the season.
Yeah, no, obviously as a Penn State football player, it didn't sit well with me at the time I was playing for the Saints. And if I got $1 for every time I fielded that question, you know, that's probably part of the reason I retired after that season. But no, obviously it hurt. There was a lot of issues that went on with that particular scandal. it just goes to show us the power of one man's actions and what that can do to an organization that was held at such a high level for so long. And maybe it was meant, maybe the irony in it is maybe it was meant for Penn State to get knocked down, for everybody to pay attention to certain issues that go on within organizations and what goes on in our society when it comes to young people. So I think, I can't take anything away from what Joe has done for so many young men, and a university, and what his family and his wife continue to do, and without him being here on this earth. So great role model. Set the stage for a lot of success for a lot of people. I have nothing bad to say about the man. He voted me team captain without a vote. I had some interesting conversations within Joe's office that I wish I could share with you, but I can't. And he's sorely missed.
A legend too. A great legend he was.
Thank you. Thank you. Life after football. Let's start with you. You have a foundation here in Tampa, and you give to a number of different organizations, and one of them is foster care. I know you support.
Yes.
And you use your platform for good.
I do. Rachel, I would say that it's in every football player's best interest who plays in the National Football League to become a community guy, because when you're a community guy and you get back to your community, it opens doors that money and talent cannot open. And for me, I was fortunate enough to have great parents. I was fortunate enough to have a great coach in Coach Saban, who taught me that role of being a leader and being a role model. So when I retired from the NFL, I became an author. I wrote a book called Chasing My Rookie Year to youth and young adults who could learn from my mistakes. And I started flipping houses, and I was asked to turn one of my homes into a foster care transitional home, which is where kids, when they age out of the foster care system and turn 18, they need a place to go because they have to leave the facility. So I decided to buy a property and allow the kids to move into that resident, and it turned out good. When you're from the inner city and you grow up and you see so many of those kids fall by the wayside because they didn't have the parents you had, didn't pay attention to the coaches they had, didn't value the teachers that they had, and they missed that opportunity out on success. A lot of guys that I played with were just as big as me, faster than me, better than me, who should have experienced the same career I had, but they missed out because of character, morals, and value. And when you can instill that into a community, it enhances a community. And a lot of doors have opened to me by being that community guy. And when you can change the life of a young man who a lot of people look at as he doesn't have a chance, he has a criminal record, or he's 18, he's already old. When you can go in and you can affect change in a young man's life like that, it's inspiring and it's encouraging. And it's almost contagious to everybody who sees it. So I just look to be that beacon of light, to continue that leadership capability, that utilizing the platform that I have, and I enjoy every minute of it.
Kudos to you for that. John, I know you can't tell us about all those closed-door meetings with Joe Paterno, but I'm curious about how he left his mark on you in your post-football life. What's the biggest thing you've taken away from him that you carry every day?
Yeah, I think it's funny you say that, because at the time he was that Nick Saban style type of coach, and as a young football player, you really can't connect the dots on why Joe Pa's making us come show up every day with no facial hair. Why do we have to be dressed in blazers and suits for every away game? Why is it he's going to bench us for missing a class when normal students miss a class every day? And it's not till when you get out of college, you're an adult, when you're in what they call the real world, when those lessons of accountability, those lessons of being a stand-up, young man that that everybody can turn to and count on. So, those things don't really start clicking until you're out here, sticking and moving amongst what they call the real world, and that's when it really comes into play. And that's when sometimes I take a minute, reflect, and say, you know what, Joe, that's good looking out. And too bad I didn't appreciate that as much as a young person. But I think that's kind of par for the course. I think, the road traveled is you go through it, then you come back and thank them for everything they've done for you.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I didn't have the opportunity to do that.
Takeo, you have one of the careers that most football players dream of after, and that's either coaching or broadcasting.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's been a ride for me, and it's partly just due to the fact that people ask me all the time how was it playing football in the National Football League, and I tell them it's a childhood dream that came true. But more importantly, life after football, the transition, and for me to have the opportunity to sit on this stage with these gentlemen, yourself, and to do, we're really just having barbershop talk.
Yeah.
I'll be doing this at home. What you mean to tell me I'm getting paid for it? That's pretty cool. So for me to have that opportunity, it's truly is a blessing. And the other thing that I did, it's important for life after football. The transition is very hard.
Yes.
I was telling Mike earlier today that I started playing organized football at the age of 6, 7 years old. I didn't retire until I was 36. And 29 years out of my life, I was playing football.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to find something that you're going to do to keep your mind at a pace to where you can keep your sanity.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was big that I got into doing the media work after I finished, and then also self-plug coming up. I just came out with my book, Behind the Mask, and it's a compilation of linebackers sharing their story of how did they become great, what made them become an outlier.
I love it.
And for people who want to know more about the book, you can go online to BehindTheMaskBook.com. Beautiful project. I also shot a lot of B-roll so you can get the video image of it to be able to see the actual feel for it.
They're telling me we have to wrap, but before we go, I need a prediction. I'm not going to make you give the score, just a winner and why. On Monday.
We want the score.
You want the score? He's a baby.
You're putting him on the spot, buddy.
Yeah. Boy, I'm not a guy who makes predictions, but I would say this.
What's your gut tell you?
My gut tells me Alabama wins. But if you look at it, Coach Saban always gets the best players in the country. Coach Sweeney has to deal with not getting those best players, but yet he transitioned his guys to compete with the nation's best. If you look at it, Alabama won the game last year by one mistake on special teams. They gave up a special teams for a score. If they do not make that mistake, Clemson wins the game. So without a doubt, Clemson has the upper hand in this game.
Yeah.
But because of that experience last year, because I know my coach, my former coach, and I know their ability this year, I would still say that Alabama wins the game.
I want to see a good game. I feel like a broken record. That's what losers say when Penn State lost. I said, well, it was a good game. I want to see a good game first, but it's hard to bet against Saban. We sat here, we talked about him, we talked about his coaching style, we talked about his winning success. When you watch those guys take the field, it's very tough to bet against them. I'm going to have to take Alabama, and I'm going to go 24-17.
Takeo.
I'm not drinking that Kool-Aid.
Tell them why, though.
I'm a Tiger at heart.
A Tiger, but not a Clemson Tiger.
Not a Clemson Tiger, but an Auburn Tiger. But if you're a Tiger, that means that's my cousin.
I'm a Tiger,
going for
too.
He's betting with his heart.
I like LSU.
War Eagle, by the way.
Or damn Eagle.
Or Eagle. Hey, my wife got her MBA from Auburn. I had to pay $50,000 to get that, so War Eagle too.
That's the best pay. That's the best $50K you ever spent.
Absolutely. I want to thank John Gilmore, tight end from Penn State. Also, Michael Clayton, wide receiver and linebacker Takeo Spikes. You can check out his book. They're going to be signing autographs over here to my left for about 15 minutes. So you can, if you go line up right there, they will sign an autograph for you. My name is Rachel Barbeau. I'm so excited to be the host here for Playoff Fan Central. The Capital One stage will be back in just a few minutes with another round of All-Americans and greats from the college football game. Thank you.